Welcome to Chasing Creativity. I'm Kiran Manral. In every episode, I take a deep dive into what makes creative people tick, what makes them come up with their ideas, what makes them find the ideas they do, and what do they do when the well runs dry. Today, we're going to be talking to Anand Neelankantan. Anand wears many hats. He started out in the corporate world. Then he moved completely into the creative space by writing books that went on to be bestsellers. And how? He then moved into the OTT and the serial and television, film, movie space, writing scripts, ideating, consulting. And now in his most recent avatar, Anand has turned actor. Anand, welcome to Chasing Creativity.
Hi Kiran, thank you. Thank you for inviting this. I should be interviewing you rather. You are more senior to me writing books.
Hello. Senior ki baat we will take for another time, Anand. Right now, you are the best-selling author out here and you are the one who has written these wonderful shows that have gone on to become so successful. Anand, I'm very curious, from a corporate job in a public sector, public sectors we know are dull and boring as ditch water. How did Anand Neelankantan make the switch from Indian Oil to writing such rich and varied and interesting stories?
Precisely for that reason. No? It was dull and boring that I wanted to get out. Initially, I enjoyed the job, but soon the midlife crisis hit much before I had reached my midlife. So I wanted to get out because I am somebody who cannot sit quiet for some time. So as of now, this is like a punishment for this podcast. The director has asked me not to move at all.
This is your naughty corner for the next hour.
So it was like I just wanted to get out of the corporate job, find some other avenues. I started exploring various things. I started drawing again. I used to draw a lot of cartoons of my teachers when I was in school and get punished, thrown out.
So
of the
you
class.
have the experience of the naughty corner from a long time back in your
Usually
childhood.
it was outside the classroom.
So this is inside the room.
It was more fun looking outside, seeing the cows grazing, girls roaming around, playing, all those things. That was a much better way of getting punished.
So tell us a bit about your childhood, because you come from Kerala, you grew up in Kerala, and Kerala is this land which is, of course, beautiful visually, but it's also rich with so much mythology and so much of culture. How much of storytelling, how much of what you learned and what you imbibed and this thing sort of stayed with you all your life and then finally gushed out before you hit your midlife crisis?
Kiran, as you know, I write mainly based on Hindu Puranas. So I grew up in a village which has got more temples than necessary, almost 108 temples.
108 in one village?
Yeah, one village.
So even if you do one a week?
No, it's not just that. No, in Kerala temples, what happens is annual festivals are there. So every year, all these temples will have chain festivals, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. Lot of cultural activities, lot of sound pollution, of course. Crackers will be there, elephants will be there, drumming will be there, and lot of temple arts, storytelling. So this is a very ancient town. This is called Tripunithura, where I grew. Tripunithura is like the capital of Cochin Kingdom. And Cochin, as you know, is a successor of the ancient Chera kingdom, which is mentioned in Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all those things. So it is that old, even few kilometers away, 30-40 kilometers away is the ancient capital of Muziris. And then Fort Cochin are all historic places. No, Muziris is like since Roman time, it is famous. Roman time, before that, even in, it has mentions in even Old Testament, in biblical times also, like Solomon's, many things had gone from this kind of ports, Muziris, Tindes and all kind of ports. So it's a very historical place, connected culturally across the world for centuries. So stories have traveled from various other parts to there. So stories have traveled from here to various other parts of the world. Of course, Shankaracharya's birthplace also is in the same district. So all these things had given a good cultural vibe. And my family also, this was a part and parcel of my growing up. All the storytelling tradition. And one thing about Kerala is, apart from the classical tradition, apart from the classical Sanskrit Brahminized tradition, the folk tradition is also equally active. So there is a lot of subaltern telling. Then reading, of course, was always prized in Kerala. Lots of libraries right from the childhood. One of the library in our village was inaugurated by Mahatma Gandhi himself.
Really?
So it's like old, it's called Mahatma Gandhi Library. It's like old libraries and all those things are there in and around. So all these things, I think, has played a good part. So when I decided to write, I was the last person who could have written the college romance or anything like that. I usually joke about my friend that I didn't have even quarter girlfriend, so how can I write? So I wrote what I'm familiar with. I wrote about Ravana, I wrote about Duryodhana, I wrote about Bali.
So the benefit to us readers is Anand Neelankantan didn't even have quarter girlfriend. Forget half girlfriend. So Anand, tell me, you just told me while we were chatting outside that first you made your retirement plan. You created the resort at Wayanad, which is a beautiful resort. And then you got down to writing. When you sit down to write, I'm very curious because I'm a writer myself. What is your process like? Do you need that peace and quiet and that shant atmosphere? Like workers, we just work wherever we have to work.
I think most of the writers, including you, I'm sure, Kiran, can work anywhere, isn't it? I have some episodes of Siyake Ram, Chakravarthy Ashoka and all which I wrote. I have finished it in the railway station, the local trains in Mumbai. What could be more chaotic than that?
That's true.
Sometimes I like some quiet, I go to my resort. But mostly when I go there, some ideation happens, but not much of writing happens. Two things are there. One, it is my resort, so the staff will come with a lot of complaints. My wife runs it and she is a taskmaster, so it's better that they approach me. They think that I am more lenient because I don't want to be disturbed. I say, okay, what salary is okay, do whatever you want. So I get disturbed. Well, that is one thing. Second thing, it's a place with a lot of monkeys and other things. So I keep sit and watch them rather than write.
Okay.
It's a very jungle kind of place with an excellent view and all. Don't think I'm marketing my resort here.
Please do. Please feel free. We all need good getaways. We all need to find
a getaway rather. So most of my ideation may happen there. I go once in a month there, 3-4 days. But my writing can happen any place, anywhere.
So it's like a workman's schedule. What is your schedule like? How does Anand Neelankantan write?
My schedule is morning. I'm a morning person. Usually by 4:15 I'm up.
That's early?
That early I am up because everybody sleeps at that time.
Okay.
So it's the most peaceful time. Only I will be awake when my dog will be sleeping. So it's a
There's
good
peace.
time.
Yes.
So that gives me a lot of speed to write. After that, that is where I write my books.
Okay.
Television and all, whenever they want, I have to write. So I write whatever is possible. But I write a lot. That way I'm quite prolific because the number of almost 700 hours of television, 2 films, now around 13 books, 8-9 shows, then around last 6 years of columns in newspapers.
So that's a lot of writing that you get done. And what I find important, Anand, and what I think we need to talk about, and what, the misconception that a writer will write when creativity and inspiration strikes them. I think it's a very workman-like discipline that we bring to the table.
This kind of concept I had when I was an amateur writer, not as a professional writer. An amateur writer writes when he has or she has mood. And that mood never comes. So you procrastinate. A professional writer doesn't have that luxury. So you have to write wherever it is, whenever it is, however it is, and try to make it right. You know better than me. You will be writing anytime you want, whatever time you feel like.
No, my computer is on, and then in between my life is like bhabhi ki nashte mein kya banana hai, khane mein kya banana hai. In between that, I have to do all my writing. So
that way, this is an unfair world. It's tougher to be in your gender, perhaps, because expectation of the society, even if you, whatever this thing is in, the expectation from the family and the society and the kids forces you.
At the end of the day, if you have chosen to be a writer, you write regardless. You just have to write. I find it very fascinating, Anand. Let's go back to your first book and when you burst upon the scene, and then we'll come back to the rest of your work. Ajaya and Asura. You chose to tell stories of the antagonists. You chose to retell the epics from their perspective. What made you think that their stories needed retelling? I'm sure you've spoken of this before, but it's so difficult to zero in from which perspective you're going to write a story. And how did you come across?
For me, it was easier, because other thing has been done to death. So many times it has been told every time. What has happened, what we follow now is mostly the devotional era, Ramayana and Mahabharata. But in India, always we had this subaltern telling. Lots of them are in folk tales. So my stories draw more from folk tales and oral tradition and all. So that's why I thought, what will happen if I think the story like many of the subaltern, the tribal poets and all have done, think it from another angle and see how it works. So it's not just Ravana and Duryodhana I've seen through Bali and the last work, not the one which is coming. The one Nala Damyanti is coming next month. But the one which came last year, the Valmiki's Women, it's a short story collection. It was seeing Ramayana from the perspective of almost forgotten women like Mantara, Tataka, And Shanta is a sister of Ram, which many people may not be aware.
Not even be aware of. That's true.
So through their perspective, I was seeing it. So I tried to tell it from the, not just what you call the antagonist perspective, even from the minor character perspective, which gives a different flavor to the age-old stories.
You've written a lot in the space of mythology, but you've also written history. So what are the challenges between these two? Because, some people tend to think mythology and history overlap, but that's not true. There is a distinct difference between the two. So what are your challenges of writing in a mythological space versus writing in an historical space?
I think mythological space or the Indian Puranic space gives you more leeway. Because it has got a lot of variations and lots of stories you can play around. Play around in the sense, I'm not telling it in a negative sense, you get a lot of margin to tell it from various places because there are so many versions of it available. So something or other will be available in some version or another. Whereas history, what has happened is it has been a prisoner of certain viewpoints.
And you need to reclaim it from those things or...
Reclaiming can also go to the other extreme.
Okay. So there's a tight balance that you need to walk.
It is a very tough balance, which we are yet to find as a country. You swing from one end to other when you are talking historical things. Historical characters are historical characters. They would have done anything depending on the kind of, for example, the Taj I wrote recently.
Taj, yes.
It's historical fiction. But when you are writing historical fiction, what happens is, what you have to understand is they were all playing politics. For that, like present day politicians, they would have used religion. Definitely, religion has always been used across humanity right from the dawn of civilization.
And history and politics is a volatile combination always.
Always. Politics and religion has always been played one way or another. So it is very difficult when you start looking history from one angle or another. Or so far, it was swinging to one extreme. Now it is trying to swing to the other extreme. I don't want to go into that, but you understand what I am saying. There is no correct form of telling what it is what. Either some of the historical characters are pure villains or they are superheroes.
There's no nuance. There's no gray.
There is no nuance. And this who is a hero, who is a villain keeps changing from who is telling this.
Yeah.
None of these people were super heroes or super villains. They were just, some have done horrible things more, some have done less of horrible things. That's all. But we are judging them from today's morality and ethics. In their era, they would not have been judged like that. Because politics was played with sword. Now it is played more with lies and propaganda and less with sword.
It's a very loaded statement, Anand. But you're very true. You're very right about that. From politics, from religion, from history, tell us something about fantasy, Rise of Sivagami, Bahubali, the most famous thing that we all know about and which everybody is curious about, that last thing in their mind, something that haunts them. Why did you not give our readers, our viewers closure?
Closure came, no? In which way closure didn't come? I was contractually bound by not to tell it.
Not to tell it.
That's one thing. And I had written the prequel of it, official prequel of it. I was a part of the team and Rajamouli sir had commissioned me to write the prequel of the entire things. But the entire team members were committed not to say it to anyone, contractually bound. So I was not fond of ending up in jail or somewhere like that. So I didn't want to tell.
Sensible. You have shifted track. First, of course, you went from corporate to creative writing. You wrote your books. Now you're like almost completely into the space of writing for television, writing scripts, writing OTT shows. And you've done some wonderful things. You've done Siya Ke Ram, Ashoka, Mahabali, Hanuman, Chakravarthy, Sarfarosh, and now most recently is Taj on Z5.
Taj and Swaraj in Doordarshan.
Swaraj you've acted in.
I wrote and
acted. Like Anand, you are becoming multi-talented and you're saving producers money.
The kind of things a man has to do to run his family, you should have tears in your eyes when you ask it.
Now we will get into another gender debate about that, so let's not get into that. Tell me, what is the difference between writing a book and writing a show or writing a film?
The difference is, one is when you're writing a book, you are the boss until you write it. Mostly now, since so many books are coming and editors don't have the luxury, you are the actual boss now. Are
any editors going to be listening to this? I wonder. Anand, are your editors going to listen to this?
Not just that. See, they trust you also after some time what you are writing. Whereas the other thing, you are not even in the level 10. If there are 10 levels where the director is at the top,
the producer above him.
producer above him. The writer comes one level below the spot boy.
One level below the spot boy. I thought you were going to say above the spot boy. Below the spot boy. Okay.
So that's the naked truth. This is a foundation of it. No, script is a foundation of it. In India, it's very sad that comparatively, two sad and happy truths I'm going to say here.
Haji.
One is, I make my living out of scripts. Even though I have sold perhaps 1.6 million copies, 13 books, 16 languages, but my living comes from my script. That is a good part of it, happy part of it. The sad part of it that in the show industry, the least paid is a writer.
This is an important lesson for everyone out there who's thinking that I'm going to quit this boring corporate job and write books full time. Please listen to Anand. He's giving wise and sensible advice here.
No, I won't be thankless and say writing won't give. I am living on writing. I quit my corporate job and living on writing. But that is because I am passionate about it. But believe me, corporate job is boring but easier.
It is.
It's far, far easier. This is like living on the edge. Always. Some people only can stand it. So that's why I made my resort, and any day I feel like this is not my thing, I'll go there, stay there, run that, buy 2 cows, have 4 coconut trees, renew my ration card, and keep writing books.
So your retirement plan is in place, Anand.
So writing for the show, your say is very less because it is a totally commercial industry. So like I was writing this film, which is going to be a big film, which is going on floor. And the director told me, you know what, this is a 300, it's a 2-part film, 300 crore, 600 crore film. And 1 page you write is worth the producer worth in the sense, the producer will be putting approximately 10 to 15 crores on that 1 page, because 1 page is 1 minute. 1 minute to 1.5 minutes.
No pressure. 10 crores, 1 page. No pressure on the writer.
Total pressure, right? So you write 1 page extra. It's like 3 to 4 days of schedule, 2,000, 3,000 people will be working for it, and 10 to 15 crores you will be spending on it. Producer will be spending on it. So each line, each word has to be precise. And this will go on getting revised until even at the editing table, it will get revised. So if you have an ego as a writer, please take it, get a good safe, put your ego in that, lock it, and throw the key into the sea, and then go to the set.
Very sensible advice. I remember something you told me a long time back, Anand. You said when you write now, you think of it as scene-wise, in a visual way. Can you expand a bit more on that?
My writing always had been very visual. That is the reason why I got, perhaps the directors had told me, right from Rajamouli sir to all the big, famous directors I have worked with in some capacity or another in the country, whether it is from the South or in the Bollywood. I'm waiting for the Hollywood call.
It'll come soon. Don't you worry. It'll come soon enough.
So they said my writing is visual. It's reading more like a screenplay.
Okay.
I don't have this soap story of coming to Mumbai, living under a flyover, chased by the police, waiting for 5 rupee vada pav, sweating, and finally somebody finding me. And no, I came in parachute perhaps. I wrote a novel. People liked it and they started calling me, and it just happened. That way I'm very lucky that I don't have that struggling period actually.
No, you're modest. You're modest. Of course, it was your work that got you noticed. And if it wasn't worth it, nobody would have called you.
I didn't stay under a flyover.
You didn't stay under a flyover. Oh, okay.
So it was always visual. So I have this why that there are 2 reasons. One is English is not my forte. I studied in an ordinary government school and I started speaking English only after college perhaps.
Okay. So that's very commendable, Anand, that, coming to it so late, you have written such successful books in the language. And Malayalam is your first language and you write beautifully in Malayalam, I'm told. I don't read the language. But you have written in Malayalam also.
Malayalam is my mother tongue. Malayalam is my first language. So I think in Malayalam. And then still when I write, I think first in Malayalam.
Okay.
And then I write it.
Do you ever find a gap between the 2 languages when you're trying to get the exact word? Because you're self-translating.
Problem with English is not for Indian. I write Indian stories, right? I'm not writing stories and I write for Indian audience. I'm not writing the typical Indian novel for the white skin where you sell the poverty of India and win prizes.
Yeah. Poverty porn. Yeah.
It's a poverty porn, no? Like from Slumdog Millionaire is a poverty porn. What the hell is that? Else is that? So RRR, Bahubali, etc. are an answer for that. We tell our stories our way and take it global.
That's a wonderful example. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I write it for, so even when I was writing this, when my editors used to say you italicize the word dharma, karma and all, I said to hell with it. If a white man writes anything, they are not thinking an Indian will read it and they will put a asterisk and try to explain it. This is our English, Indian English. I am not going to explain anything. I expect my reader to know what is dharma. I expect my reader to know who is Ram, who is Ravan, who is that. That many people only need to read it. We are 150 crore people. If we cannot sell it, let us not sell it.
And yet your books have been translated into how many? 11 languages?
16 languages.
16 languages, and also Indonesian.
Indonesian, Sri Lankan.
Sri Lankan.
Then Bangladeshi, Bengali.
Oh, lovely. So, and there was no need for asterisks and italics in all this process. They will get the words when they want to get it.
See, these are all extended Indian culture, no, Indonesian and other things. They are yet to go to the West. When it goes, let it go. That's a separate thing. So, why I was writing visually is because my language skills are limited.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's better that I visualize it and try to tell it like a small kid tells it. That's how I write it, because that much English vocabulary only I had. Later, since I've been writing for donkey's years now, my vocabulary and the language flow might have slightly increased, which I'm really scared. It should not end up in loss of sales.
With that, Anand has come to the nub of sales, best-selling, literary versus commercial fiction, and all the debates that we keep having all the time about. From writing to acting, yet another shift in your creative portfolio. What made you take up acting, and what made you, was it curiosity? Was it desire to try a new medium? Was it another retirement plan?
It was an accident actually.
Okay.
It was a mistake also. See, I was writing for this Swaraj for Doordarshan continuously. So that is this thing on each episode is about one freedom fighter, unknown freedom fighter of India in the last 500 years who has fought Dutch, Portuguese, British, some king or other one, which are not very well known. So this is a Doordarshan project, right? It has come in all languages now. So what happened is, one of the character was from Tamil Nadu, Veerapandya Kattabomman. There was one villain character. But here, the shooting was happening here. And the actor who was taken to play this was not able to pronounce many of the place names, other character name and other.
Okay.
So I was in the set and I was continuously correcting the language and the dialogues and all. So the director said he was fed up because this shooting has to be done. He said, why don't you try?
Okay.
So I had just gone for the morning to come back in the evening. I had to stay back for 3 days and... I became that main villain in that episode of Ettappa Naikar. I became the villain. That was how my acting. As I said, no, I don't have the history of looking for chance. It just falls on you. And the poor actor was supposed to play the main villain. He became a spy cleaning the shoes of the British and overhearing it. So you would be cursing me. Unfortunately, I became the actor. That was seen by some ad agency, casting agency. So they called me for one ad. That led to another ad. So far now 3, and now one director has called for a film as a character role. At this, I am nearing 50. Next year I'll be 50. So I don't think anybody will use me as the hero. Actor is safe. I can act up until I am 90, 95 or even 100.
Never say never, Anand. You never know. We might just see you romancing somebody someday soon on our screens.
Let your words be true, I wish. So when it happened, it happened. That's how the shift happened. Now I am enjoying it. So if any directors or producers are hearing this, you can hire me. You can hire me also as an actor, apart from giving the screenplay contract to me.
So one pay, one free, as they say. Ek pick free.
Nothing is free.
Nothing is free. 2 in 1.
2 in 1.
You know, when we were young, we had 2 in 1 recording and playing. So now this is Anand Neelankantan offering 2 in 1 services. He will write the script for you and he will also act in your production. Please hire him. Anand, writing for adults is a different ballgame completely from writing for children. And you have recently ventured into writing for children. And it's very challenging to write for children because you have to simplify to the barest details and yet retain the interest. And what was your experience of writing your children's?
Very tough. So I didn't have the confidence until I had finished my 10 books.
Okay.
Not that it's a magic number or anything, but I was still not confident to write for children. But I tell a lot of stories to kids. A lot of kids come to me and I tell stories to them and all. So that way I'm yet to grow up.
Which is the best way to be for any creative people.
So I thought, why not tell the way I tell the kids? So there is no morality. lot of people asked, what is the moral of your book?
Mhm.
I write about Asura kids. I write about naughty Asuras. So my first book, 2 years back, with Penguin Puffin, it had come, the tale of naughty Asuras, Asura kids.
Mhm.
Now it's a chapter book series,
Okay.
which is coming. So one chapter, this is the other one is for 10-year-old. This is for 5 to 7-year-old with a lot of
Okay.
pictures and other things. One story a book with a lot of pictures. So this introduced the Indian Puranas to the kids
How lovely.
in a very entertaining fashion, not the typical. Because what I found was, though there are a lot of good books, they are written by adults for adults who wants to impose their ideas on children and give morality, good moral tales. So what kids do, they will hear it for their parents' sake and then go and watch Tom and Jerry or something that comes from the West. We are not presenting it in a very entertaining fashion. So what I have done is, I tried to make it as funny and as entertaining as possible for the kids. So I have done the test dose before writing it, called the kids of that age, and they thrash 9 out of 10 stories. So whatever they approve, that only come as books. So I hope it will work.
So your focus group is like already set and you have done all the
I
research.
got a lot of what I call beta readers.
Beta readers.
Beta readers. lot in my colony, they come and I tell the story. So like instead of beta readers, I call them beta
readers.
Beta readers. I tell them the story and whatever they accept only, I'm putting it as a book. So the first book also did well. I hope this is going as a series.
Okay.
Series of books, chapter books.
And are you planning to like expand it into a regular thing? Are you going to be writing regularly for children apart from this series of books?
I have decided that I'll come up one by one. No, there are so many stories to be told, and most of them are like moral tales which kids don't want. I wanted to tell it the way what they are used to. They are more used to the fun way of telling stories which is coming from the West.
Okay.
So I want to tell our stories the same way. It should be like and I'm trying to make an animation film out of it also. So
How
that
wonderful.
also talks are happening. So soon all these books will be animated films also for the kids.
How wonderful. That sounds absolutely fabulous. And what's coming up next?
Lot of things are coming up. Film based on Mahabharata, which I said, that is coming up. Then 2 series are coming for the OTT platform. With Rohan Sippy, one is coming. One is with Rakesh from Prashmara. The film is coming based on Mahabharata. 2 film series. Then I have the next audio book. I had written the Many Ramayanas, Many Lessons. Now Many Krishnas, Many Lessons is coming for Audible. Then audio drama is coming in Storytel, Amba. Then the biggest one is Nala Damyanti is coming. Penguin is coming as Nala Damyanti. The book is already on the pre-order. This is my first comedy book.
Comedy book.
Because usually all my books are a bit serious, no? Like
Okay.
it's all, if you call the classical sense, if you call, they are like tragedies, great
Yes.
tragedies, no? Like Ravana, he dies in the end. Duryodhana, he dies in the end. This is one thing. Bali, Vanara, he dies in the end. Shivagami is a very intense book. The Bahubali one. This one is fun book. This I wrote with my hand. So what I found, you would have observed it, no? The medium which we write with, it changes. So when I write with the hands, no, it's my natural instincts are coming out. So it is more, I used to write a lot of humor stories when I was writing in Malayalam. So this, when I wrote with my hand, it came out as a big comedy kind of thing. I hope people will laugh at the right places and not at me. but it's the first comedy book which I am writing. It's a romantic comedy. It's
a romantic comedy,
it's
that
a romantic.
too.
Nala Damyanti story.
Of course, it's a romance.
Romance. So it's a romantic comedy written like a Disney film or something like that. No, it goes in that way. So this is an experiment for me also. It was written with hand. So this is one book which will decide whether I should continue writing comedy or go back to writing very intense books. I would love to write more comedies actually.
I'm sure we would love to read more comedies from you also. And thank you so much, Anand, and congratulations on Nala Damyanti and all the shows and movies that are coming up. And we look forward to more from your pen and more from you on the screen.
So, I hope so.
And I hope that romantic hero role comes soon, and let's hope it manifests. All the very best.
Romance can happen at any age. So I agree with you. Thank you.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Chasing Creativity. We were chatting with Anand Neelankantan. Follow me on social at Kiran Manral and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We are available on Spotify, Binge Pods, Apple Podcasts, and all the other major platforms. See you soon.
With wireless deals, you can't always trust everything you hear. So when we tell you that at US Cellular you can choose from any unlimited Evolve plan and get $700 off any phone with no hidden requirements, you're probably thinking, yeah, right. But that actually is right. Because at US Cellular, you actually can trust everything you hear. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. Visit uscellular.com for details.
U.S. Cellular is America's locally grown wireless. Visit Cellular Advantage, a U.S. Cellular authorized agent located on 918 South Locust Street in Glenwood.